Over the years, I found that when I'm making this kind of stuff, there's a number of things that I try to keep in mind just to make it go as fluidly as possible and, of course, not to hurt myself as well, because even though I've never hurt myself so bad that it kept me from really doing what I needed to do with fabricating and metalworking and stuff, it's still much more pleasant to do all this kind of work when you don't have to worry about a hurt hand or something like that. And it's very, very easy to hurt yourself with this kind of stuff. So what I like to try to keep in mind is, first off, I try to have a decent platform. Like this table, it's kind of rickety, but it's a good steel frame and it will work fine for keeping this stable for drilling. And then you can see I have two C-clamps. Well, you can probably just see the one here. I have this one here, and then at the other end I have another one clamped down to the table so that I can drill this hole and not have any issues. And then on top of all of that, this drill bit here that I have is a drill bit that's been used a number of times. It's been used in some wood, it's been used for metal and things like that. And so you have to kind of make sure that when you're going to use these drill bits, especially if they're older, that they actually have a sharp edge on them. Now, if they don't have a sharp edge on them, it's not the end of the world. You can take a flat file and you can file them off, or you can take a piece of flat sandpaper and you can do the same thing. And actually, that's what I'm going to have to do right now. So I'm going to show you guys how to be able to file these enough to at least get an edge. The more perfect they are, the better they cut. But in the end, as long as it has a good edge on them and it's relatively shaped the way that it originally was, with the point in the center and then the edges cut to that same angle relatively, it's going to work for what you need. And that's what I need to do now, because if you try to use especially a drill bit this big on a hand drill, especially a hand drill that you've used a number of times, there is a good possibility that you're going to burn out the motor. And that's exactly what we don't want to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and file this down. Here in front of the camera I have a piece of sandpaper or a sanding belt for a belt sander. And this belt sander is one that I currently use, and if I have the belt sander out, I actually use the belt sander to be able to file these and sand these down to make them the edge that I want. However, it's not the end of the world if you don't have some power tool. You can actually do it by hand. It's not that hard. And this here is 100 grit that it's a little bit worn. And I'm going to move the camera just a little bit to give myself a little bit more room to do this with. And then all you need to do is just make sure you have it at the angle it should be. Granted, you want to pay attention to what you're doing so that you don't rip the sandpaper if you can avoid it. But I just run it back and forth just like this until I start to feel that that edge is coming back on. And I know I've read online a bunch of different people say you should do this or that or the other, and I've tried a bunch of different methods. But the honest truth is, I found that this works just as good as all the other methods. I set up jigs, I did all kinds of stuff. But I found that this works just as good, and it helps me get what I need a lot quicker than if I try to do it the ways that other people have showed me online. So, I mean, if you want to do it this way, that's good. If you don't, I'm not going to be offended. Go ahead and follow some of the other advice online. The main point is just that you get an edge that is good on your drill bit. And then once you've done that, you can actually get this ready and use it, and then you're good to go. And to feel if it's sharp or not, you can start running your finger over this little edge here. And when it starts to pull back, it starts to get back that edge of sharpness to it, then you know you're doing okay. Don't forget, when you're actually sanding these, spin them just slightly at that angle so that you get that contour this way as well, that curvature to it, because that's really important to the cutting ability. So I always rotate my wrist a little bit as well while I'm sanding these things. And then from time to time, you'll need to, I just hit it on my leg whatever on the table. Get most of that built up stuff off, all the grit and stuff that was on there from before. And another good thing to keep in mind is that a lot of times this will actually get dull, not so much due to the amount of use you give it, but the speed and the heat that you create with it. Because you can actually burn these and then it weakens the metal and therefore it starts to chip out, it starts to do other things. So try not to use your drill full on, but at a relative speed of security. You know, actually I use mine kind of slow and it digs out better and it lasts a little longer. So that's what I'm going to do with this.